Ladies and gentlemen, how are we? Good. Okay, so now's the time. It's 9 o'clock. They told me just to start, right? So we're just going to start. That being said, I want to thank you, first of all, for coming and hanging out with me. This feels a little hot. Is it a little hot? It feels a little hot. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I recognize that without CE and without really maybe anything other than your own curiosity, that this is a special opportunity. I will say yesterday when I came down and I looked at the room here, they only had the first 5 rows of chairs set. And I thought, wow, they really think highly of me, don't they? Where it's like just the first 5. All of you would have been up front and it would have had a totally different vibe than what we currently do, which is totally fine. But then I walked in today and it was like, all the way back. So it was a totally different experience. Real quick, my name is Brandon Johnson. I hail from the great state of Minnesota. And we were just talking about the weather. Ironically, it's 41 degrees there, and I have no snow. So it's kind of a weird little transition to be here. Today, we're going to talk specifically about defining your niche to transform your business. And the reason we have this conversation is we like to have some clarity in building out where you are. All right, so just for a little bit of credibility piece, in case you're wondering, I've been selling real estate since 2004. I own my own brokerage that serves Greater Minnesota. We have 6 offices and about 88 agents. And I still sell, because sometimes you still have to do that because people on the inner circle, you can't refer out no matter how hard you try. And those are the people that I still help, love, and adore. So I am still doing this. This is still an active part of my day. Inevitably somebody's going to ask about slides. Absolutely, you can have my slides. I really don't care. There's not that much content on there. So if you want to know something, this is your time, right? So we're not in a CE setting, and even if we were, I wouldn't care. I would still tell you, ask a question, okay? Ultimately, you guys chose to get out of your normal everyday business to come and grow. My entire objective for you is to make sure you leave with something of value to help your business move forward. Deal? Okay. So that's my commitment to you. So if you didn't get anything at the end of it, I want you to walk up front and you and I will stand here until I coach you into something that you feel is worth your time and energy. There's an hour gap in the room, so we got lots of time before I start talking again at 11. So deal? Okay, it's 9, but a little response would be an okay thing here, okay? Deal. All right, so come on in, grab a seat. So first thing I want to do is today we're really going to talk about 3 things. Now, I'm going to also tell you that this 1-hour session is part of a 2-day workshop that we put on for people. So they asked me to take a 2-day thing and basically condense it into an hour. And I said, absolutely not. That's never going to work out because if you've done any type of strategic planning or anything related to building your business, you usually need a little bit of dead space to process, right? You think of something, you come back, you mold it, you shape it, you do something better. And that's a good process to do. So today, what I want to do is really just talk you through 3 kind of ideas and concepts for you to think about. Now today, this is a very high level. We're going to fly 30,000 feet above for you to take a look at your business, right? And decide if you want to niche down. Out of curiosity, well, here, before we get there. So the 3 things I'm going to ask you to start talking about today, 3 areas we're going to focus on understanding. Number 1 is actually what is a niche, okay? And now if you want to judge me because I say niche instead of niche or niche, no, okay, an immediate no. Okay, so we won't say niche in the room, but just so you know, I will say niche because that's what I do. You can judge me, I really don't care. So we're going to talk about niches and what those actually look like, okay? Then we're also going to talk about you. How many of you are active real estate agents? Okay, so hopefully you'll take something away. Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Sean Carpenter. You guys been to one of his classes? You have to go. I'm just telling you, right? What a guy. So we're going to talk about yourself. You got to understand yourself. You got to know yourself in order to lead yourself, right? You kind of have a hard time knowing where to take your business if you don't take a stop to look in the mirror and actually reflect backwards on it, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about knowing yourself and what value you bring. And then we're also going to talk about your ideal client, okay? Then I have a framework that I'm going to give you at the very end. It's a really simple thing. You can draw it in your notebook. You can take a picture of the screen. I really don't care. That walks you through kind of just a quick exercise to actually identify that. Sound like something you're interested in? All right. First thing I want to talk to you about is there's 2 different ways to market yourself as a real estate agent. That's it. You can do it in a mass marketing effort, or you can do it in a niche marketing effort. Okay? Now, who's going to be brave enough to give me an example of what a mass marketing realtor would do? Say it again. Postcards could be a mass marketing effort, yep. Billboards, okay. Let me ask it differently. Tell me something about a niche market. Specific, okay, in the back. Oh, you're speaking my love language. Different. Awesome. So she had mentioned second home markets, right? So in the greater Minnesota markets, well, that's really what we deal with. A lot of resorts and a lot of lake homes, right? We saw our average sale price, I'm sure just like all of your markets, increase about $250,000 in 1 year. You can't get on a top tier lake in 100 feet for probably less than $800,000 in any of my markets right now, which depending upon where you are may seem like, that seems like not a lot of money. Right? Our average sale price is $324 for a single family, like postage stamp, right? So just in comparison to give you some idea. Now, when we talk about 2 ways to market yourself, I want you to think about you as a realtor and how you're going to handle this moving forward, right? Do you want to be a mass market realtor or do you want to be a niche market realtor? And the thing we're going to do first is we're going to define actually what is a niche, okay? I know I said niche. We won't say niche, right? Okay. It's like Target. Oh, I say Target just because I'm a Minnesota boy. That's what we do. Okay. It's the fancy spot we have in northern Minnesota. All right, so a niche, a specialized segment of the market for a particular kind of product or service. Now, I have a thing about what we do. Some people say we sell stuff. Some people say we're a service. Some say we have a product, right? I actually think we're more of an experience therapist, right? Like, depending upon the situation. We are actually ingrained in helping people. Last night I was at dinner and somebody mentioned this and I thought it was really interesting. We have a very unique privilege to serve people for one of the largest, most intensive 2 to 4 months out of their lives. Like, you're calling people, you're talking to these people every single day, you're driving home value, you're trying to course correct, you're trying to get their dad out of the inspection, like you're trying to do all of these things in order to actually bring some value. Like, we have this massive amount of time to create this exceptional experience for people in a very short order. So when we talk about that, you get to decide, right? This is all about you and your business. You can decide, are you product-based or are you service-based? Okay, yeah. It can be a hypothetical or you can really answer, I don't care. Okay, but like having the value add on the service side is what's going to generate your sales funnel. Any realtor I've ever known that has been product focused, or you could even say transaction focused, right? Usually can do a ton of business, like a ton, because all they care about is churn, right? Get it, turn, burn, and I'm done. Inevitably they burn out. People don't like to work with them. If you work in a smaller market, you know exactly who those people are, and you'll go to the appointment, and next thing you know, that person says, well, I'm not going to work with agent so-and-so. Yeah, right? Like, you know exactly who that person is. Now, is that a bad business model? No. Because some people are okay with that transactional based. Now, as we start to see all the wonderful things coming out with the lawsuits, right, and all these class actions, you're going to start to see a major shift from the consumer's expectations. Because now as a buyer's agent, right, if you are expected to go in and stand there and ask them to pay you, which I believe they should, but that's a topic for a different day. That's a whole different class, right? But assuming that you should ask them to pay you, now you have an obligation to that client to provide them with an exceptional service and experience versus just delivering the product, right? Because I promise you, somebody will always deliver the product cheaper than you. And if your business model is, I'm the cheap one in the room, there's nothing wrong with that. That is a business model. It's not the one I like, but it doesn't mean it's wrong, right? It just means it's different. So let's talk a little bit about some of the most popular niches, right? Just to give a little bit of context to where we're going in the real estate space. Number one, location. Anybody advertise them as a community expert? Okay, what community? Okay, Catskills and Hudson Valley. There you go, right? You're a location-based agent. Now, did COVID change your location? Yeah, right. Did the current market change your location? Are you willing to drive a little bit further than maybe you were? Right? Do you disclose that you are actually, opinionated enough to bring value in that situation, right? Do you have an ethical duty, right, not to work outside of your scope of expertise? So if you start going to new markets, here's my favorite thing. I get city folk. Oh, this could be a fun exercise. How many of you know what a septic system is? Oh, y'all are my people, okay? Like, I love this. So I live, again, in greater Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul agents, when they start coming 2 hours up the freeway, they start calling. They're like, what's a septic? And I'm like, son, like, I love you. Give me your referral and go back home. I don't have time to talk to you about what a septic is, right? So last couple years, I've drastically changed it, but location is a specific thing, right? You could also then talk about property type. That could be another specific niche, right? You're the condo guy. You're the condo gal. You're the townhome expert, right? You're this gated community expert, whatever it could be. Sorry, that's more of a location, but your property. This could also go into single family, right? Single family, townhomes, whatever you're trying to look at. Luxury properties. Anybody here specialize in luxury? Yeah? I could tell with the black. You can always pick out the luxury agents because they wear all black and then a little pop of color. I'm just picking on you because you're smiling at me, so it's okay. What's your name? Rosita. Oh, and with a name like that, how are you not luxury, right? With a name like Brandon, you're like, nah, you're stuck selling the 250 stuff, right? That's okay. So like luxury is a total space where you can really niche down. And in my markets and smaller markets, I've been trying really hard. I believe that every market needs at least one luxury agent. I don't care how small or how big. Every market needs at least one. So if you're in a market space where there's not that go-to luxury person, that is a prime opportunity for you to build a business into. And we'll start walking through how to do that. Rental properties, right? Any rental people in the room? Yeah? Love it. Now, I consider this like 4 units and less. Do you guys consider rental property 4 units and less? Yeah? Okay. So we're on the same page. REO and foreclosures. I just had a conversation with somebody about how they were specializing in the elevator. By the way, realtor conventions are some of my favorite because everybody's so friendly, right? We're all like just smiling in the elevators, getting to know each other. It's a great time. He had a little dog with him too, which is also really funny. Dog's name was Stone. Never seen a dog named Stone. That was new. Commercial properties. This is where it gets a little bit different, right? Because now you start talking a little bit above, right? 5 units and up. Retirement communities. Now that the boomers are aging out, right? We're starting to see a mass influx in retirement communities. A mass influx across the entire U.S. and people who want more townhomes, right? More associated living. People who want more dedication, more focus, right? They want that space. Retirement communities is a great opportunity. New construction. Any new construction pros? One? Okay, well, there's an obvious opportunity, okay? Best thing I can tell you if you're looking at new construction and you know that your specific market needs a little bit more, depending upon where you are, infill projects are the best thing you can possibly do, right? It's that empty lot that's sitting between 2 houses that there's never been a sign on. Somebody owns it because it doesn't cost them more than $3,000 to $1,000 a year based upon taxes. So it's a prime space to go in for new construction. Land. Now, massive chunks of land, maybe not so much up here, right, in the Northeast, but you start going down to our friends in Texas and into the West, you start talking about land. That is a whole different animal. Like, I don't know, anybody been out West? Do you guys look at properties when you travel? Yeah, right, because then it's a write-off, okay? So, now I'm not a CPA, I'm just telling you what I do that my CPA says I can do, right? But like, that's one thing, we were in Montana because I had some friends who had a cabin out there. Boy, that is a different space. When they're like, oh, a 400-acre ranch is nothing. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? 400 acres is nothing? Like, nope. You need at least, 4,000 before we start to care. I was like, holy smokes, that's a totally different space than what I'm used to doing in northern Minnesota. And then we start talking about redevelopment, which is becoming a very, very popular trend right now amongst investors and commercial folk because we start to say, we can't build new. It's too expensive, even though the cost of everything has come back down, except for shingles. Stupid. Anyway, we can't afford to do anything new, therefore we're going to look at a redevelopment. Can we take a rundown property, inject some cash into it and some life? Here's the fun thing, okay? You want to know where your millennials are spending their money? Right here. Redevelopment. I don't care what market you're in. I promise you, you will drive downtown and there will be some millennial who has taken an old building, renovated it into something fancy. It's likely all white. maybe a little gray, might have a little bit of shiplap, black windows, right? Which is going to totally go out of style, by the way. Just give it like 2 years. But, yeah, right? So, like, you will find the millennials and where they're redeveloping and bringing value back into downtowns. That's one of the biggest value adds that generation is bringing to our economy right now is the ability to centralize community again, right? And that's the one thing COVID really showed us is that minus our industry, okay, a lot of people get the luxury to work anywhere they want. So now they have an opportunity to go to the community that they want, right? I can't tell you how many people relocated in and out of just my office that our agents helped, right? I mean, I think we lost track during the 2 years of COVID after it was like 80, 85. Right? And like our office will do about 800 transactions a year. So you're talking 10% of our business was people just straight relocating from out of market due to COVID, not because of anything other reasons. Because again, we don't count cabin relocators because we don't. So these are kind of the most popular niches. Now, out of these, is there something that you think we missed? Yes? Probably. He's right. I probably missed something. What do you got? Absolutely. That is a huge one. Yeah, so military first responders is what she said if you didn't hear it. That's a huge one, yeah. First-time home buyers, exactly. A consumer type is a great one to consider. I saw another one, yeah. Antique homes. Oh, yeah, you're like, yep, I like that one. Right? Don't get me wrong, I love a good Craftsman, quarter sawn oak, and the colonnades, right? Woo, baby, give me some. Who's back here? Yeah. Waterfront. Yeah, that's prime, right? Like in my market, if you don't know waterfront, you're not making a living. Like that's it, right? Like, but you hit different markets, and that's not necessarily true, right? Like if you don't know what the DNR runoff is in my area, you're going to have a problem. If you don't understand the slope and grade of what a bluff is comparative to what isn't, right? What's a bluff, what's a hill, and what's flat shoreline, right? Like those are all different things based upon measurements. And you better believe we got stakes and hammers and the 100-yard fiberglass tape so we can measure the pitch of it all so we can guide people to what they need to know. So that's good. You guys, this is fantastic. These are just the top 10, but what you're talking about is exactly where your mind needs to go, okay? It's exactly where you need to go in the event that you want to switch from a mass marketing agent. Hi, my name is Brandon. I sell single family. I'm going to help you buy your first rental. Oh, I'm also going to lease this vacant space downtown, right? Like I do it all. I'm here for you. I'm your realtor for life. How many of you use that phrase? Okay? That's not a bad thing, right? That's mass marketing. I can do everything. Can you make money in that way? Say yes. Yes, okay? Niche marketing, can you make more money? Potentially. Okay, let's talk about it. First thing I want to do, so we talked about niches, right? That was the first content pillar I was telling you about we're going to talk about. Okay, second one was talking about you, right? It's business planning season. Anybody got theirs done? Okay, let's ask a better question that's more likely not to embarrass some people. How many are thinking about starting a business plan before the end of the year? All right, there we go, right? So congratulations. This is a great topic for you to consider as you move into this. You may not know it, but you are a brand. You ever been told that? Good. The moment you decided to put the realtor thing at the end of your name or go to licensing school or publicly put yourself out there, you now became a brand. You're like, no, I just sell real estate. No, you don't. Not anymore. You know why? Because my generation of the millennials changed it, right? Social media changed it. The dynamics of the market, they changed it. You cannot be just a realtor anymore. It doesn't work that way. And the people who are like, well, this is the way that I've always done it and I just sell houses, that's fine. I believe that you are going to be out of this business in the next 5 years. I just do. There's enough new people coming in that are taking advantage of the new ways, defining their niche, becoming the go-to, right? And in spaces that they can do that, and they're going to start to succeed. So if you are unaware that you are not a brand and you haven't purposely thought of yourself as a brand, I'm going to give you a couple questions to guide you through right now. The reason you have a personal brand is because a brand builds trust. Okay? You can look no further than McDonald's as an example. When you travel inside the U.S., because we won't go outside, but if you're traveling inside the U.S., if you're going to go to a McDonald's in Texas, do you know what you're going to get? Fries. Fries, that's all I'm getting, right? Fries and a milkshake. Okay. Right? You know the experience. Right? You know exactly what you're going to get to it, right? If you're lucky enough to travel and you go to a Buc-ee's, you know the experience you're going to get, right? There's a way that a brand is going to build it with you. Now, I'm an Adidas guy. Nothing against Nike. I just like Adidas. But my friend forced me to buy a pair of Nike shoes, and I almost wore them today. But my wife said, please don't wear those shoes. And I said, okay, that's fine. You can judge my shoes if you want. It was a topic of conversation this morning. But I like the Adidas. The Nike ones, they just don't fit, right? It's an experience. It's a brand that I know and trust. It's just one I don't use. And that's okay, right? Your brand is going to build some trust. And the reason we do that, the reason you start to build your brand and share your brand is so that people can see you. Seems pretty fundamental, doesn't it? Yes, that's because it is. It's meant to be. Once people can see you, that allows them to get to know you. You're going to see an exorbitant amount of social media content this week. Yes or no? Okay. Now, why in a realtor industry do we like social media? Anybody love doing it? It's free. Exposure. Right? It's evergreen. Okay? There's content pieces that you can continue to build out that once you record your first agent intro video, guess what? You probably get to use it for the entire year. And if you're like a lot of agents, you might use it for 5 years, even though your haircut's changed and your waistband got a little bit bigger or smaller if you're one of the lucky ones, right? Like, that's fine, but you can still kind of reuse some of that content. And that's how people get to know you. That's how they get to know you in that space. They see you and they get to know you. Once they get to know you, naturally, they decide whether or not they like you. I am not everybody's cup of tea. I'm a loud extrovert. I'm incredibly direct. I'm a high D. Some of my agents, they laugh at me when I tell clients, I will not work with you. Get your head on straight, and then we'll have a conversation. I'm just picking on you, Nita. You're doing so good, like eye contact. You are right with me, right? So like that is an okay thing. I have no problem telling people I will not work with you. I'm going to fire you as a client unless you decide to listen to my expertise and advice. You should see the new agents when they sit down with me at listing presentations, right? Seller's like, well, no, I want this much money for my house because Zillow says so. Yeah, that's super cute, but I don't really care what Zillow says because you don't know and they don't know what I know, right? And that's okay. But once they start to like you, here's the best part. Now, in my world, I'm married up, okay? At the end of the slide, you'll get my Instagram handle. You can follow me. My wife is a total babe. Like, I kid you not, she is smoking hot. That being said, she's also incredibly nice. Double whammy. But it's great for me because people who don't like me, guess who they like? Yeah, you know it. And guess who they call when they need something for real estate? They call her and then she calls me, right? So you can use this in a couple different ways. But once they start to like you, then it leads people to trusting you. And once they trust you, you got them. It's a relationship, right? That's all we're doing. So when we talk about building your personal brand, you got to know who you are, right? So you can show people who you are so that they can begin to like you. So at the end of the day, they can ultimately trust you. Questions? Is it making sense?
Is your wife licensed?
No, my wife is not licensed. We've talked about it in case I get hit by a bus or, I hate flying. I do enough of it, but boy, do I hate it. I'm very afraid of heights. So I always think this big metal tube in the sky is just going to which I know the engineering and everything behind it, like it's not just going to turn over and drop, but that's how I feel every time the thing takes off. So she should get licensed, but then nobody would call me. They'd all call her. Actually, they still call her. I need therapy. Okay. Nothing wrong with therapy, by the way. I'm a big proponent of it. So when we talk about building trust inside of your brand, okay, inside of that space, then I want you to start thinking about, here's some really tough questions for you to ask yourself if you're like, I don't actually know who I am as a realtor. Okay, the rest of it is a therapy time and we can have that conversation. I'd love to get to know you. But in the event that you don't know your business well enough to have that conversation, I'm going to guide you through a couple quick questions just to consider. For those of you who are kind of artsy note takers, you can draw 6 little circles on your page. Okay. Everybody else, you can just go number 1. It's always fun. You get to learn, the creative brains, then you get to learn just the analytic brains, depending on how people take notes. First one, what are you passionate about? So if you don't know your specific brand of what your business is, what are you passionate about? That's a really good question to ask. Anybody know exactly what you're passionate about? Perfect. I'll give you a couple of examples. Nobody knows, so don't feel bad. That's great. I mean, this is great, though. It tells me that this is something you need, right? Like whether you decide to niche or not, or mass, this is still valuable content for you to understand about you and your business going into 2024. First-time home buyers. I friggin' love them. They're dumb. They're super excited. Right? Now, median age of first-time home buyers is what according to NAR? 36? Who said it? Oh, of course, Sean Carr. I'm going to give you credit. I'm not going to give Sean. Yeah, okay, well done. 36. 36. I'll show you the report, Anita. Right, Anita? I will show you the report. It says 36. Well, it's a different time, sunshine. Okay? It's 36. Right? So you got 36 right now of people coming in. First-time buyers, 36 years of age. Usually, they're going to have upwards of $50,000 in cash to do this transaction, statistically speaking, okay? Your market may be different, right? I understand, depending upon the economy of where you live, work, and play, that may be different. My market, it's about 50. Actually, all of Minnesota, it's about 50, okay? They got money, they're dumb, and they want to spend it. Well, I'm just saying. Yeah, Minnesota, passive-aggressive nice, okay? That's not Minnesota nice, it's just passive-aggressive nice. That being said, that's one area. What's another one? Where is it? House hackers, right? The investment flippers. Great market, especially now, right? Good. What else? Seniors, an incredible market. You know why I love working with seniors? You sit down at your table, and as long as you say yes to that cup of coffee, you're their best friend. You say no to that cup of coffee, game over. They don't trust you at all. I'm just telling you, okay? Yeah. Oh, this is a great one. Okay, did you all hear that up here? Yeah. So just to recap, in case you didn't hear, right? She made a comment about house hackers and understanding that they want everybody to work for them, right? Totally true. They don't want exclusivity with you because you haven't proven the value yet. You haven't proven that you get to go talk to them and actually retain them because you're going to go find every deal under the sun. Now, a good flipper, okay, or a good house hacker is going to be driving around. We call it driving for dollars, right? They're going to drive around. They're going to use Onyx or the county website to figure out, well, that house is overgrown. Lawn hasn't been mowed. I wonder what I can do. They're going to also look at the rental registry, depending upon if that's publicly available in your market, and they're going to start calling everybody. Anyone that's a distressed property, they're going to look for. It's their business model, right? And they say, I don't care who brings me a deal. If it fits my criteria, I'll pay you. Sounds a lot like cooperative compensation, doesn't it? Okay? So while it may not be a market you want to work in, that's totally fine. I think it's an incredible niche, though, because it's a fun market. The first margin is terrible, right? Because you're selling a $20,000, $50,000, $200,000 property. That commission's going to be terrible. But you build the relationship. And like what I tell my flippers is like, hey, I got no problem working with you, but I want to guarantee that on the list side. That's it. And they go, well, I'm not going to do that. Totally fine. I'm not your guy. Find some other schmuck.
How do you get that guarantee? You can't go.
Well, I can't speak to the contract laws of your state, and I am not a licensed attorney in any state. However, what I can tell you is I work out a handshake agreement. If I could do everything on a handshake agreement, I would. And most flippers that I know that are actually doing this as a business are incredibly relational. It's just like a contractor, right? For those flippers, if they're not independent and like their own contractor, if they're outsourcing all that stuff, you better believe they're going to call the electrician that can do it right on time, under budget, and get it done faster.
They want the realtor to sell it quick because they want to get the money out of it.
Right on. And guess what? You can go to closing on that thing, and guess what you can do right after they close? List it. So if it's my first time with somebody, that's usually what I'll do. And then in my state, we have a withheld from MLS form, right? And then I have to turn that in, and now the property sits, and I have it under contract for 2 years. That's just what I do. This is my business model. Talk to your broker. But with flippers, I do a contract for 2 years because you never know what's going to happen in that renovation process. Good. So if you can start to answer what are you passionate about, that's a really good space to start to look at how you're going to niche down. Another one, what problem do you solve? Can anybody answer that for your business? Just out of curiosity. Resources. What do you mean by resources, Gareth? Yeah. So you, yeah. So if I was to surmise, then you would say you use yourself as a connection point to various vendors.
I do that primarily for estates.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. What other problems do you solve? Can anybody tell me, like, if you were to, go somewhere, we're not at a real estate convention, right? But you go somewhere else. Do you talk and do you just say, oh, I sell real estate, I'm a realtor? Or do you actually tell people which problem you solve? So do you sell it as a year-long process? No. Okay. I was just curious. Awesome. So you help remove stress. Yeah, love that. So if I'm really honest with you guys, and because I love you and I'm very passionate about our industry, this is another question you need to know. You just do. Otherwise, this tells me if you don't know this problem, then you're a mass marketing agent, which is not a problem. I want to be very clear if that's how you operate. It's not a problem if you're a mass market agent, okay? But if you want to start talking about really transforming your business, this is a question you have to solve. It's a question you have to answer and then solve, right? Then comes, what do I have experience in or expertise in? I found myself a commercial expert by accident because I kept buying commercial buildings. I kind of fell into it, right? It's not a bad thing. It just sort of happened. And when you're there negotiating, Class B and Class A anchor tenant leases and you've never done it before, it's a little intimidating because their attorneys send over leases that are about that thick, right? So you can find your space. Now, I don't consider myself a full commercial expert, but in rural markets, I most definitely do. Because that I can do. I would never go to New York City and negotiate a first floor lease with Starbucks. I would never, ever do it. I'd be like, I'm out. Like, where's my referral, right? Like, and that's okay. You want to talk about lakefront properties in greater Minnesota? You want to get away and have a picturesque, sunset over the lake with beautiful fall colors? I'm your guy. I got you, right? So knowing your expertise can really drive you on where you want to go and how you want to handle people. What have you earned the right to talk about? And if you don't know, just start paying attention to the questions that people ask you, right? Not only what do your friends ask you, what does your association ask you, what do your fellow agents ask you, right? Any broker owners in the room? Killer, right? Pay attention to what your agents are asking you. I outsourced all of my contract stuff because to me, contracts are pretty black and white. So I don't answer contract questions anymore. What I answer is how do I get agent from doing 2 to 3 deals a year to getting them to do 10, 11 million a year. That's what I do now, right? Understand what expertise and do you have and what have you earned the right to talk about. And here's the funny thing. I don't know about y'all, okay, but most people I've ever come in contact with don't believe they've earned the right to talk in an authoritative space about anything. It is lame, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it was awesome, and I strongly recommend it. I had a rental,
Yep.
to share. And others who don't have the same.
Short-term rentals, STRs, are heavily overregulated everywhere, which is why everybody's bookings have gone down, right? So it's not as great of a market to be in anymore. But when you start thinking about what have you earned the right to talk about, again, just pay attention to what people are asking. Because while some of you, I appreciate you're incredibly confident enough to be like, no, I'm friggin' awesome at short-term rentals, or no, I'm friggin' awesome at first-time home buyers. That's awesome. I love that. Step into that, right? Really drive home the value on that. Okay? There's a lot of opportunity and space to be done there. Whoop. Then we talk about what business do you want to be in? This is something I tell, who are our new agents, by the way? Less than 3 years? Holy moly, I love it, you guys. Stick around. This is the best industry in the world. Okay? Just tough it out. I promise. Just tough it out. It's fantastic. But a lot of us got into this entire industry because we had an experience that was less than stellar and we thought we could do it better than the person who sold us our house. Right? Okay. That's stereotypically the answer as to why most of us got into it. That or you're an SOB. Son of a broker. Easy. Okay? Calm down. Potty mouths. Okay? So you have kind of two paths that you got into this thing, but really once you get into it, the beautiful thing I love about this, you guys, is it is a relationship business, but it's not just a business, right? The business to me is the result of the relationships that you build in it, and you get to decide, you know what, sorry, I have an appointment. I promise you I'm never going to show you a house Sunday morning before 1 p.m. Because you know what, my calendar says I have an appointment. From 9 to noon, it says church, and then from noon to 1, it says family lunch. Right? If you call me, I'm going to be like, hey, that's super cool, but you know what? I can't show that to you. I already have appointments that day. What I can do is show it to you at 2 o'clock on Sunday, because who doesn't like to look at Lakeshore on a Sunday afternoon, right, when the sun's shining? Not right now, but most of the days we do, okay? Or I can show it to you Monday at 9, right? Now, there is a point, new agents, I'll tell you, there's a new point that you can pivot that when you've earned the right to do it. There's a period of time when you have not earned the right to do that, and you can't actually demand it. You just have to go when somebody says jump. Right? And that will transition with it. But you get to decide what kind of a business you want to be in, which I think is absolutely killer. And then lastly, what would people be willing to buy from you? And I'm going to tell you again, it's not the product that they're paying for. Right? They're paying the bank for the product. They're paying you for your service, for your experience. What kind of an experience are you going to leave your clients with? Anybody do tours? Community tours? Yeah? 2, 3? Okay. If you're not doing community tours, this is a freebie, right? Doesn't cost you anything to walk into your major community employers. And don't go to the big dogs. Go to like the mid-size ones, right, that don't have relo yet. And offer to be their go-to. I will come and do community tours for anybody you're looking to hire that's out of the area. I don't care if it's C-suite or if it's a floor person. I will be here to show them this community. Because who knows the community better than you? And guess what? If they decide, oh, you know what, my niche is really condos, but this guy really wants a single family. Okay. Maybe I got a referral. Right? I can still get compensated for that. There's still a lot of opportunity to do that. So again, what are you passionate about? What problem do you solve? What do you have expertise in? And what have you earned the right to talk about? What kind of a business do you want to be in? And what are people willing to buy from you? Yeah. Absolutely. So I start to say here, what am I passionate about? Well, I'm passionate about impacting people's lives through real estate because I believe this entity known as real estate is the absolute best thing to change people's lives. It is the best thing to change the course of a family. It is the best thing to build wealth in this country, is real estate. I firmly believe that. In case that wasn't clear, that's what I'm pretty passionate about. Okay? What problem do I solve? I like this stress, right? We talked about that. I tell people that I will make this as complicated or as simple as you want, you decide. Right? Millennials is a very different demographic than the boomers. The boomers are pretty much like, can you just make it happen? I don't need to know how this thing works. I just make it happen. The millennials want a really collaborative approach. They don't want to be led through the transaction. They want to be walked with through the transaction. Here's what we're going to do at the inspection. Here's who's going to be at the inspection. Here's how the inspection is going to happen. Here's some of the issues that might come up. Right? Those are very different problems to solve. My expertise, when I sell full-time, my expertise was Lakeshore. Okay, that was my niche. You wanted to get on a lake in northern Minnesota, I was your guy. And I would market that way to the people who wanted to buy cabins. That's the value in understanding your answers here, is knowing how you're going to market that information back. What have I earned the right to talk about? Well, here's the funny thing. I didn't have the right to talk about anything until I just started posting a bunch of content and becoming the authority. And then magically, guess what? My phone would ring and they'd be like, oh yeah, I saw that thing or your podcast or I saw your YouTube video. You really know a lot about that area. Little did they know that my 30-second video about Lake Miltona was me just regurgitating facts off the DNR website and why it was a great lake. Still one of my most viewed videos out there, right? I think it's got 48,000 views or something right now on it. I don't count the viral stuff because that stuff doesn't generate business. It just generates haters. So what business do I want to be in? I talked a little bit about the scheduling, right? I wanted to be in a business that I was in control of who I work with, not the other way around. I didn't want my clients to be in control of me. Some people really respect that, and those are my people. Some people really hate that. Those are not my people, right? And that's where you have to have comfort in saying no. And then what would people be willing to buy from me? Here's the dumbest thing I'll tell you as it relates to that, my cutting board. The dumbest thing in the world. I have a custom branded cutting board that goes to every closing with me. It's oversized because it gets used every holiday. My logo is only on the back of it, never on the front because I think that's tacky, right? The shape, the outline shape of Minnesota has become really popular, so is the outline of a lot of people's states, like on shirts and stuff. That just goes on the bottom right. That's it. Super simple. And I present it to them. Usually I go to the final walkthrough. If it's a buyer, I set it on the kitchen with a couple things, right, and call it a day. What's fun, though, is so far this year, I have had 12 photos of people saying, we still love this thing from Thanksgiving. It's the dumbest thing in the world. But guess what? This is when I knew it mattered. I had a referral from somebody that came up and said, are we going to get a cutting board at the end of this? And I was like, you are kidding me. Like, this is what matters? They're like, yeah, our friend had it, and it was absolutely, we love that thing. I'm like, you're going to get two, right? Like, super easy, right? They're about $120. I have a local company make them because I believe in giving back to the community that gives to us. That's just a value of mine. And so it's part of the value prop that we do. So that's how I would answer those questions. Was that helpful? Awesome. Okay, we're going to cruise through. We got 17 minutes. We're going to talk about your client profile. Okay, so again, we talked about the first part of what we said we'd talk about was understanding what a true niche is, right? The value of being inside of it. Then we were going to talk about yourself. Hopefully you just learned a little bit about yourself, and if you didn't, maybe you'll go home and do some homework. Or maybe you won't. And frankly, that's on you. Now, client profiles. Anybody got their client profile? Sometimes companies call this an avatar. Anybody got one? Okay. So maybe by the end of today, you might. I have one because I've gone through the exercise, and every single one of my businesses has one. Okay? Let's talk about it. First thing I want to talk to you about is two categories. Number one, demographics. Second category is going to be psychographics. And you can use your imagination on what we're going to talk about. All right, demographics. Now, this is not a fair housing violation, so please understand. Age. Age is a very specific category in which you can talk to somebody. The way you're going to talk to an alpha generation or a Gen Zer first time coming in to the process is going to be way different than you're going to talk to a Gen Xer, okay, which is going to be way different than how you're going to talk to a boomer. And depending upon who you are and your personality and the right that you've earned to sit at their dining room table is going to drastically change how you're going to respond to them as well, right? So like anytime we talk about generations, we always say this is normative behavior, right? It is not specific behavior, okay? So I just want to remind you. Gender. Now, I have some friends up in the PNW, the Pacific Northwest, who their defined niche, and I kid you not, they are so dang good at it, is lesbian couples. That's it, right? That's their domination. I don't care. I'm not telling you what your affiliation is or your political leanings, because frankly, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it right now. All I'm telling you is they found a niche in a community that they believe in and they support, and everything they do, the amount of referrals, they told me they had 300 referrals go through they have a full-time referral person, because people find their content, because they're flying all around the country being activists for a cause they believe in. They're flying around building relationships, and they're now becoming the go-to in that community. They have niched down and absolutely crushing it. It's the divas, by the way, in case you're wondering. They're fantastic humans, and they're even better realtors. Location. Where are they? Right? Where is your ideal client? For me, my ideal client was 2 hours away, north, south, east, and west of where I lived and played. Right? So it's a very different way of handling people than it is if they're right in your backyard. Right? If you're working first-time home buyers, well, they might be in apartment buildings. Right? They might be on the entry-level side of some of the organizations that are in your communities. Occupation. What do they do for a living? In my market, I have an exorbitant amount of engineers. I don't know if you know an engineer. They're very analytical. They don't care about anything other than connecting the dots and making sure that it works. They're very hard for me to deal with, okay? Love them to pieces, I really do. But they're very hard for me to work with because that's not how my mind works. Doesn't mean I can't adjust and adapt to them because I want to love them. But it means that there's an opportunity for me to know, where does my ideal person work? What's their income range? Like a legitimate question. What's the ideal income range of your ideal client? Anybody know? These are going to be such fun questions for you guys. I really hope you go through it. And if you do, please send me a message and DM me. It'll be great. We'll have a conversation and a virtual cup of coffee. Marital and familial status. Again, we're not doing any antitrust stuff here, right? We're not violating fair housing. I'm just telling you this is how you build your ideal client. I really like working with people who have young families because frankly, there's nothing better than me coloring with a 3-year-old at the kitchen table while mom and dad are walking around the house. Yeah. Wasn't that a great question? Did you guys hear that? Were you all wondering the same thing? Yes. No. Okay, perfect. Well, let me answer the question, okay? Now, while I am not licensed in your state, nor am I your broker, there's a lot of layers above that you need to get clarification on before it can come down, okay? What I can tell you from the federal level, there's a difference between refusing services to somebody and marketing to somebody. There is a fine line, and I fully hear you. And while, again, I can't speak to specifics of where you are, you got to remember what I'm asking you to think about is just who your ideal client is, right? Right. That's what I want you to identify. I'm not telling you to change your marketing habits, but what may change your marketing habits, if, as an example, while I may not, sponsor the singles night at the local VFW if my ideal client is married with 2 kids. Right? I'm using it as a guide, not as a rule. Is that okay? Right. Yep. And people will make an assumption on you and your business based upon where you put your money.
Community of 55 and over.
Right.
You're known there, you advertise, like I do. I advertise in the community.
Correct. Now, it's not a fair housing violation as far as I'm concerned. Again, I'm not an attorney. However, what I can tell you is just by choosing to advertise in a 55 plus community does not mean you are specifically steering or having a fair housing violation. Now, age, of course, has its own restrictions, which is kind of a weird example, but I appreciate it nevertheless. Okay, so again, I'm not saying you're using this in a way to steer people away. I'm saying you're using it in a way to bring clarity to who you want to talk to in your marketing efforts. Okay, great question. Yes?
I think she brought up a good point in your state. That might have to happen in your biz. You may have to allow to discuss housing. Might market, let's say you want on that. Because, I mean, and God over. We do, because I
Yeah.
know there was this huge. Lot of money on checkers. Yeah, but that was.
Yeah, I think that was a steering thing, though. Point being, so I guess we're getting a little off topic, right? Here, the idea is what you're saying is not wrong. That's where you need to talk to your broker, your team lead, get some clarity on what you're doing. What I'm specifically asking you to do is to think about who your ideal client is, to use it as a guide as to how you want to reach and speak them, not necessarily in how you want to steer to only them. Okay? So if nobody got that on record, just know that I recorded myself stating that. So anyway, let's move on. So let's talk about some other things that are not anywhere near this, which is psychology, right? And the psychographics. Personality types. How many of you have taken a disc profile? That seems to be like the realtor go-to. I absolutely hate the disc. Anyway, how many of you have taken an Enneagram? Enneagram? Yeah, exactly, right? How many of you have taken a 5 voices certification? Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so this tells me, A, that if you guys like me, I'll come back next year and I'll tell you the 5 different the voices of a buyer and seller profile and how you relate to them. Does that sound cool? It's a great class. It's super fun. Anyway, personality. Knowing how the person is on the other side of you is incredibly important so that you can build a bridge to them, right? If you can't tell, my personality is one way, and when I sit across the table from an introvert who I love, I don't understand, but I love them, right? Like if I come across really excited and I'm jazzed up and I'm using my hands a lot, I'm leaning in and doing all this stuff, they're gonna be like, nope. Somebody tell me where the school teacher is that I want to talk to about real estate, right? Like, so that's not a bad thing. But you see, right? Teachers and nurses, man, they make the best real estate agents because they were so relatable. They're awesome, just so you know. But the other side of that is to say, when you know the person on the other side of you, it gives you an opportunity to build that bridge to connect with them, okay? Characteristics. What do they like? What do they like, what they don't like, right? Where they want to be. What kind of car they drive, right? The gal at the checkout counter was like, oh, would you like a Chevy Bolt today? And I was like, no, I don't want a Bolt. Like, hey, I don't know where any of the charging stations are, and there's no supercharger. Don't give me that thing, right? Anyway, I drove an Equinox, in case you're wondering. So, habits. What do they like to do? Where do they like to go? Right? My favorite example of this, how many of you have seen the show Cheers? Yeah, who sat at the bar every day after running his postal route? What was his habit every day? Blather on and drink a beer, right? Just like a lot of our friends do, okay? So it's a prime opportunity for you to understand. In one of my offices, the best marketing piece that I had some agents, they bought a little coaster. They put their team logo on it and a QR code right in the middle of it, and they buy nice thick coasters. So they last a while, and they bring them out to all the local pubs. Right? The bar's not buying them because either they're going to get them from whatever beer distributor and they're going to use the cheap flimsy ones, then you got to pour salt on them so your glass doesn't stick to it, right? Or you can use these really high-end coasters and now you have constant marketing. Every time somebody's putting it down, guess where they're looking? I mean, it's interesting, okay? What do they like? What do they don't like? Also very important questions. And then lastly, their lifestyle. And again, I'm not talking, I don't want to know your political leanings, I don't want to know your religious things in this context. We can have a beer later and talk about it, that's great. However, these are all psychographic information that you need to be able to use to build out your client profile. Who is your ideal person that you want to talk to? Because when you have a picture of somebody, do you know how to talk to them? Say yes. Okay. In the event that you know who you want to talk to, now you can start to build your marketing story to that person in a way that they will understand it. You can start to create an opportunity for connection based upon what you've identified in areas like this. So, when you talk about identifying your real client, you got to know who they are, which we just walked through, right? You got to know their wants and needs, okay? And as it relates specifically to real estate, you can always get the NAR home buyer and seller reports, right, that come out. You can go to, I think it's Zillow.com/research. Or no, it's research.zillow.com and realtor.com/research. I think that's the way it is. So you can pick up all sorts of demographic information because you know how all the websites now say, hey, would you like to allow cookies? Right? That's super fun and irritating. But I promise you that's because they know everything about you. So you might as well go get the research anyway. People are like, I don't want to have a smartphone. Well, okay. Every other device in the room is listening, so why not have your own, right? Like you're not getting away from it. So you want to know where your ideal client is located. And this is not just, specifically to geographics, right? This could be where they like to hang out online, right? Where should you be spending money to advertise to them and connect with them? And the last one is the reason why they want you and why they need you. Again, because your ideal client is going to have a very different reason for why they need and want you comparative to somebody who's not your ideal client. And when you ask these questions, you'll start to build a picture, you'll start to build your avatar. So here's how it kind of works. Okay, a big box, 3 little boxes. Told you we would do this, right? These are the 3 things you want to do. I promise if you've been doing this long enough, you're going to know this, right? When you think of, that was my dream client, what's their name? What was it? Dr. Marvin Williams.
Grace.
What was it?
Grace.
Grace. I promise you, you've been doing this long enough, I guarantee you, you have a dream client, okay? And it's so easy because you're like, oh, that was fun, right? The transaction maybe sucked, but it was still so fun. Then we all know the one, right? That's the person I really wanted to work with, but I didn't. I messed up the presentation. I messed up some closing aspect of it. I goofed somewhere in the process, right? I missed it. And there was the one the one that we couldn't attract, the one we couldn't get in the door. We couldn't get the appointment, right? And then there was the person that I wanted to work with. The one that I got in the door, but I missed it, right? I can name all 3 of mine, really, really quick and easy. Okay? The one I'm going to tell you about is the Kissart family. These guys were my dream client. Now, they were, first time I met Kia, she called me. It was a Realtor.com lead. I was incredibly lucky. She showed up to the house. She still is a nurse, recently engaged. She had her one son with her. First showing, so it was just me and her son showing her this really big house. I was like, I haven't vetted you other than you said you were pre-approved. And the lender said so, okay, so I scheduled the appointment. It was a $300,000 house, which, in our market, however many years ago, was a big deal. It was still a lot of money, right? And that whole transaction was a blast. Every piece of it. How I connected with her, how I connected with him, how I connected with the kids. And now they just bought 2 rental properties because they know that that's kind of a jam of mine. They also went through and they had another baby girl, so that was fun. I got invited to their wedding. Like it's like a whole new thing, right? Like these are the people that I can now build my entire profile around. Because I know that was the experience I loved. It was the experience that I created. And ironically, they look like me, they talk like me, they celebrate like me, they're my kind of people, right? And in a real small market, that's not always easy to find. Okay? So this is a whole chart that you get to walk through to try to give a little bit out. Now, I have 1 minute. Any questions? Yes?
I'm in a similar market with my clients are absolutely.
Yeah. Oh. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So, hey, before you all leave, just want to let you know when the reviews come out, did you learn something, though? Yes. Yeah? Well, did you have a little fun? Yes. All right, rock and roll. Love you all. Bless you.
See you at 11.
I'll be here at 11.
That was awesome.
Oh, good.